All right, you want to grab your chakra snacks and you want to hold on to your Uchiha boxers. Make sure you got the brown boxers on because you might have an accident. Because Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Volume 6, it just dropped some more lore-satisfying reveals for Sarada Uchiha. For many months, fans have been arguing whether or not Sarada's Mangekyou Sharingan breaks the Naruto lore. In fact, fans have been arguing that for a whole 2 years now. She didn't see anybody die. Hey, why don't her eyes bleed? She's not going blind now. Why isn't Sarada showing signs of going blind after having used her Mangekyou Sharingan twice? Yes, all those debates, you've probably seen them. You've probably banged your head against the wall a couple times like I have. But now, this new database entry in the manga volume, it straight up confirms the truth, and it is glorious. Sarada's Mangekyou Sharingan, for as overpowered as it is, it does have multiple weaknesses. And not only that, but it restores faith in what some people might perceive to be Boruto's lore consistency, which isn't necessarily the case, but it also sets her up for a massive future power-up and a story payoff that ties all the way back to her Uchiha heritage and her father's legacy. So join me in today's newest Naruto Explained video where your OBC, your original Boruto chief, breaks down this confirmation, why it matters so much for anyone who cares about Naruto's world building and anyone who was screaming, but the Boruto plot holes. So let's just get into it. So the database confirmation. Here's what the database says. Sarada's Mangekyou Sharingan ability, officially named Ōhirume, allows her to create up to 4 gravity spheres, each with a maximum diameter of 250 centimeters. That's 8 feet, by the way. So these orbs, they're not cute little marbles. They're big in size. For reference, the average male in the United States is 5'9". These are 8 feet. These things are massive. They are towering gravitational spheres that dwarf the average person. It gets even crazier when you think about that. Also, the database states that each of the orb's gravitational pull, it is directly proportional to its mass. That means the bigger Sarada makes them, the stronger the gravity becomes. She can control both the size and the intensity, and she can detonate them at will, something that Ryu knows all too well. On top of that, it's saying that this power allows her to reach speed levels that are on par with the Ōtsutsuki. Yes, that's right. It's official now. She does have Ōtsutsuki tier of power. But before anyone starts shouting, oh, she's too broken, this is Sasuke 2.0, hold on, because the entry does drop a bit of a bombshell that makes all this more balanced, more believable, and most importantly, more lore consistent. Her Mangekyou Sharingan has multiple weaknesses. The first weakness is its line of sight dependent. Sarada has to directly see her targets in order to control and affect them. This means if her vision is obscured, she's theoretically done. Think about Eraserhead's ability in My Hero Academia. No seeing, no control. No seeing, no erasure in terms of My Hero Academia. Second, and this is a big one, the chakra consumption, it is massive. This technique burns through her reserves of chakra like a wildfire, which that already fits the classic Uchiha pattern of powerful dojutsu that are low-key self-destructive because all of them eat up an enormous amount of chakra. Which makes me really wonder, given how much pain Sasuke was in when Sasuke used Susanoo, where he described it as every cell on his body was on fire. I really wonder how Sarada's gonna be able to handle Susanoo, just saying. The third weakness is the one that old school Naruto fans, you should be sighing in relief right now. Like every other Mangekyou Sharingan user before her, overuse will make it go blind. Thankfully, she has not used her Mangekyou like a dumbass like Sasuke did, or Sasuke. Not counting the 5 Kage summit, the guy literally, instead of just using his regular 3-tomo Sharingan for Sharingan Genjutsu, decided, I'm gonna use my shiny new Mangekyou Sharingan. Despite knowing from Itachi's own words that overusing the Mangekyou leads to the eyes themselves going blind, he used Mangekyou on random low-level hidden cloud ninja when he tried to capture Killer Bee. So yes, blindness is back on the table. This right here is what makes this new entry a big deal, because the last couple of years, a huge portion of the fandom was saying that Sarada's Mangekyou Sharingan was a walking plot hole. There are people who said, but she didn't see anyone die. This isn't a true Mangekyou Sharingan because there's no grief associated with it, but that whole argument completely misses the point of how the Mangekyou Sharingan works. Regardless as to what you might have been told by people that, being blunt, they call everything a plot hole and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to Naruto. So let's get something straight. Seeing someone die was not a literal requirement for awakening the Mangekyou Sharingan. It's one of the easiest ways to get it, yes, but that is also a misunderstanding that was spread to the Uchiha directly because Zetsu manipulated the clan's history for his own agenda. He needed Indra's descendants to be easily manipulated for his own purposes. What actually matters is whether or not you yourself have the potential to awaken the Sharingan, because as we're told in Naruto's manga, not every Uchiha has the potential to awaken the Sharingan. That's also backed up in the Naruto data books, where just because you have a Kekkei Genkai in terms of genetically does not mean you have the potential to awaken it. Even with the Mangekyou Sharingan, only a few Uchiha in the manga have ever had it. Not all of them have the potential to awaken the Mangekyou. Reason number 500, read the manga and ignore the Naruto Shippuden anime. The thing that matters is that level of trauma. The Mangekyou manifests when an Uchiha with the potential for it experiences extreme emotional trauma, that it basically twists up the chemicals in their brains and it twists up their perception of love, loss, and identity. Sarada, she went through an emotional train wreck that hit every single box I just laid out when she awakened the Mangekyou Sharingan in Boruto Naruto Next Generation Chapter 80. First, she and Boruto nearly died when Kawaki attacked them. Then, right after that, Omnipotence rewrote everyone's memories, turning Boruto into a fugitive into everyone's eyes, but not hers. She watched as Mitsuki and Sasuke, Boruto's teammate, her own father, and someone who Boruto idolized in Sasuke, tried to kill Boruto. They were setting out to murder an innocent child. Then, on top of that, she also learned that her idol, Naruto Uzumaki, someone that she openly said she wished had been her father, she learned that Naruto was dead. On top of all of that, she felt completely powerless to protect Boruto, the boy that she swore to stand beside. That is a layer, compounded trauma, back to back to back in a short time span. Ignore the fact that we as fans had to go through multiple months to get all that in universe. All that stuff transpired in maybe 5 minutes time. It's not about seeing death. It's about feeling despair. It's about being driven so deeply into despair and having that self-disappointment. That is an emotional implosion. That is exactly what the Mangekyou Sharingan represents. The ultimate distortion of love and attachment for a clan that feels love deeper than any other clan out there. So yes, Sarada's initial Mangekyou awakening was perfectly in line with Uchiha lore. That was getting lightning in a bottle. That's the whole reason why Koji's basically like, hey, we can't get her to consciously awaken Mangekyou any other way than seeing Yodo die, because being blunt, there's not anything you can do to recreate those circumstances of trauma that insane for Sarada to consciously get Mangekyou back. It's not as easy as going up to her, say, hey, you got another eye, you might want to switch that shit on. And now we know that her eyes, they will also deteriorate when she overuses them. That solidifies her place among every great Uchiha before her. Now, this weakness is a blessing in disguise when you think about it, because you might be thinking, hey, why are you saying it's a blessing that her eyes can go blind? It's because, number one, obviously rules still matters. It means that the series isn't just handing out god tier power-ups without consequences, but it also means that you as a viewer also has to understand that Sarada was a lot stronger when she was 12 years old than you want to give her credit for. And Sarada, at the age of 15, before she got Mangekyou Sharingan, was a lot stronger than you want to give her credit for. The scaling is very linear. For the people that want to say, you try to make everything Dragon Ball, you miss the point of why I referenced Dragon Ball. It's not just because Kishimoto directly uses Dragon Ball as an inspiration. I am basically saying it is linear in the same way that Dragon Ball progressed things linear. In Naruto, it's a very linear power scaling. The only thing that makes things complicated is when you have to factor in clan Kekkei Genkai specifics, like with the Uchiha clan. Their power can directly increase in proportion to their emotions because their Kekkei Genkai is yin related, and you also in versus matchups have to consider things like chakra nature matchups and etc. This is why with Sarada, to kind of land the plane here, with Sarada is poetic, the Uchiha's greatest gift. It has always been their curse. The stronger their love, the greater their pain. The greater their pain, the more power that those eyes can awaken. Which is very fitting given what Momoshiki said, those who are immune to omnipotence are destined to suffer the most, and suffering leads to pain. Pain leads to hatred. Sarada just happens to have a Kekkei Genkai that is rooted in Yin Chakra, which is rooted to spiritual energy, which is rooted to the emotions. And with Sarada, there's hate in her heart right now, because for her to love Boruto that much, you don't think she has hate for Kawaki? For her to not know that Naruto's not dead because Boruto never told her, Ada never told her that. She thinks that Kawaki killed Boruto's father, blamed Boruto for it, stole Boruto's life, and Boruto happens to be somebody she's in love with. That's a lot of hate, especially for a teenage girl. That connection, it also keeps the lore intact. And with the database entry confirming that Mangekyou for her follows the same deterioration path, it means that Boruto's storytelling is also respecting Masashi Kishimoto's world building, and it's not ignoring it. Which brings me to another point. There are people that say, well, if she's got these weaknesses, then why don't we have the bleeding eyes? If you keep pointing out bleeding eyes, that means that you're dumb. And I'm just gonna say that without holding my tongue. That's one of the most repetitive and frankly hilarious gotcha moments in the fandom. But her eyes don't bleed when she uses Mangekyou Sharingan. That means it is inconsistent. It's time to roast somebody gently. There have been plenty of times in Naruto's own manga that was drawn by Masashi Kishimoto where Mangekyou Sharingan users, they didn't have bleeding eyes when they were using the Mangekyou Sharingan every single time. For instance, we never saw Kakashi spam Kamui. His eyes didn't bleed once. You could argue, well, Obito had Hashirama cells, so that's why it didn't happen. The only problem with that is that Kakashi's eye was not physically in Obito. The Hashirama cells directly impact Obito. But also Obito, same deal. He used Kamui dozens of times without a single drop of blood until he got both eyes back in his body. And if you pay attention, what we have to use there, headcanon. And we still don't have an answer, because why did Obito not have any bleeding eyes until he had both eyes back inside of his eye socket? But that's not the only example. You can keep going. If you read Naruto closely, you can see people that are using elements of Mangekyou Sharingan and their eyes are not always bleeding. Case in point, Kakashi has both Mangekyou Sharingan in his eyes. He's using Kamui. He's using a perfect Susanoo. Not a drop in blood. This is why you don't overthink it. There are other examples of Mangekyou Sharingan being used, whether it be for Genjutsu or whether it be used for Susanoo. In a couple of cases with Itachi, he's using his Mangekyou Sharingan powers, not a drop in blood in sight. But if you listen to some of these disingenuous actors, they say Sarada's eyes not bleeding means that they messed up the lore. They didn't mess up the lore. You're just looking for a reason to hate. If you've been in the Patreon Discord server, you know that I've been saying for a while that my worst fear is happening. The Naruto community is becoming like the 2000s, the late 2000s Dragon Ball community, early 2010s Dragon Ball community, and really even now with that community, where we have a lot of, being blunt, dumbass takes of people saying stuff or plot holes and don't make sense, when if you read the manga, it's right there. To use the Dragon Ball example because it directly correlates with the issues we're having with Naruto. Yeah, Dragon Ball fans say if you don't see the sparkling lightning, electricity, whatever you want to call it, then somebody's not a Super Saiyan 2. That's not how you identify it, because you don't always have lightning when somebody's going Super Saiyan 2. It's not always present. Just like when somebody uses the Mangekyou Sharingan, their eyes are not always bleeding for every little thing. There are specific jutsu Yes, but there are a couple times where there's specific jutsu where they used it, like we saw with Sarada and like we've seen with Kakashi and with Itachi. There are times where their eyes, when using their Mangekyou specific jutsu, do not bleed. So if you don't see it, it's not a huge thing to get worked up over. You're eventually going to see it. I'm saying that specifically because I read the comments. I don't reply to every comment here on the channel. So I want to address the numerous people here on the channel who have been saying that. Just be patient, let it cook. It's a monthly manga, let it cook. They're not ruining Sarada's character like I've seen some of you guys say. In fact, as I've been pointing out in this video, it's actually boosting her character. Now, what this means for a future power-up is pretty clear. So this is where things get very spicy. Because if Sarada's eyes deteriorate from overuse, this means the series is laying the groundwork for one inevitable outcome, the Eternal Mangekyō Sharingan. In order to unlock it, she's gonna need the Mangekyou of a close blood relative. This is where the fan theories have gone wild. People are saying, oh my god, she can use the Shin Uchiha clan eyes. Others will say that makes more sense than anything else, and that's wrong. Unless there is a retcon to the lore, Shin cannot be used. Shin is not related to Sasuke or Sarada or any Uchiha in general. His Mangekyou is not directly tied to any Uchiha. If you need a reminder, go reread Naruto Gaiden. Those are Naruto chapters 701 to 710, written and drawn by Masashi Kishimoto. It literally says that Shin is a lab rat of Orochimaru, a modified human that he used to create Danzo's Hashirama Cell arm. He is not Itachi's descendant. He is not Shisui's secret cousin that we never knew about. He's not even a clone of either of them like people still try to say. He is basically a lab rat who is an Uchiha worshiper. His Sharingan is artificially made. Those are lab-grown eyes. We don't know how Orochimaru did it, but what we do know, if you read the Gar Hiden, a Sandstorm Mirage story, which is an epilogue story for Naruto, which also was written by Ukyo Kodachi, the former writer of Boruto's manga, and the co-writer for Naruto Boruto the movie, we know that Orochimaru came close to recreating the Sharingan in the past. Dangerously close. It was because he failed to capture Itachi. He tried to make his own damn Sharingan and didn't realize how close he got. We can just jump to the assumption that he figured out how to do it after the blank period, basically. So if you see someone online saying, well, she could just use Shin's eyes for Eternal Mangekyō Sharingan, no. He's not a close blood relative. Those are artificial eyes. It wouldn't work. Not unless there's a retcon. Now, Sasuke's original eyes, they are still in play. And that's where the conversation gets interesting. Because unlike what you saw in the anime, which shows Sasuke completely destroying the entire hideout after getting his transplant and the eyes finally settled in, the manga paints a completely different picture. In the manga, after Itachi's eyes are transplanted and Sasuke has time for Itachi's chakra to merge with his own, Sasuke fires an arrow at Zetsu and he cuts open a small hole in the ceiling and he escapes. There's no indication that he outright destroys the entire lab like you saw in the anime. There's a little bit of Amaterasu flames, and there's a small section that he destroyed when he attacked Zetsu. Even more suspicious, when you look at Sasuke when he removes his bandages, that familiar wall of Sharingan jars that Obito kept that we saw when Sasuke originally got the eyes transplanted, they're nowhere to be seen in the background. That implies that Sasuke was moved to a different location inside of that hideout. And as we saw, there are multiple rooms in that hideout. More likely than not, the originals are somewhere safe. Now, this is just speculation. It's plausible in my opinion, but I think that we're going to get another flashback where Sasuke told Boruto where his original eyes were stored, because he's already explained to Boruto basically Sarada has a Chokotomo Mangekyou Sharingan, because he says that her power is going to be super overpowered. He knew just by looking at it. It's because of the Chokotomo Mangekyou Sharingan pattern, but also he would have told Boruto that her eyes would eventually go blind when she awakens them. Sasuke's smart enough to plan further ahead. The moment that Sarada's vision begins fading, Boruto might be the one who brings her father's original Mangekyou Sharingan eyes back to her, completing her whole evolution while also honoring Sasuke's legacy. Unless we go the route of getting just one Eternal Mangekyou Sharingan from Sasuke is enough to override everything. But that'd be kind of a dick move if Boruto plucked out Sasuke's eye after he was sealed in a tree. Boruto unseals Sasuke, Sasuke can't see anything, that's gonna suck. However, getting Sasuke's original eyes, that's poetic and it's an emotional moment. It would also give Sarada both power as well as closure. Now the lore consistency matters, and this is the part that deserves to be said out loud. How many times have you seen people say Boruto is breaking Naruto's lore, and then the people making that argument say the most nonsense thing ever? The irony is, again, most of those times the complaints are from people that don't actually remember the lore to begin with. They played the video games and said caught up, or they watched some clips online and said caught up, or they have not gone back and reread or rewatched Naruto since it ended. Mikio Ikimoto, the illustrator of Boruto, was Kishimoto's lead assistant for 14 years. He literally helped draw and construct the world in terms of the visual and thematic consistency. He would have been there when all those meetings with Kishimoto and both editors he had for Naruto were going on. Kishimoto also directly meets with Ikimoto when it comes to discussing Boruto's story direction, twice a month. The first time they meet when Ikimoto makes changes to the Nemu and Kishimoto doesn't know what he changed. Kishimoto looks over those storyboards and they discuss it, and then they meet again before the final draft is done. So do you guys really think that potentially the guy who invented the Uchiha clan forgot how the Mangekyou Sharingan works? Do you think that the guy who was his assistant for 14 years forgets how it works? Outside of a few funny moments, like when Kishimoto completely forgot that random tuning exams proctor that inspired Gege Akutami to make Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen, or when he admitted in 2015 that he forgot to give Boruto and Himawari the Byakugan at birth and joked that Naruto and Hinata would need a third child to fix that. Video will be linked in the description box. Kishimoto has been remarkably consistent about things he said regarding Naruto. He does not have a Akira Toriyama brain where when you ask him something, he just makes something up on the spot. So yeah, Kishimoto and Ikimoto, they remember every nuance of how Mangekyou Sharingan works. Fans can relax in my opinion. Sarada's blindness being confirmed, it doesn't break anything. It preserves everything. Now, this does change the stakes for Sarada's character. Now that blindness is confirmed, Sarada's battles, they carry actual tension. Every time she activates Ōhirume, every time those gravity spears light up, the audience knows she's literally gambling with her sight. When she uses Susanoo, the same thing. When she uses that, as of now, undisclosed secondary ability, it's the same thing. It raises the emotional stakes for every fight. It gives her narrative weight that a perfect, consequence-free power could never do. Just like Sasuke's old battles where his eyesight eventually failed him, we might see Sarada struggle to balance strength and self-preservation, and that's exactly the type of storytelling that has made the Uchiha tragedies so compelling in the first place. They're so overpowered, and yet they have weaknesses, and it's ironic. A clan that has a visual prowess in the Sharingan eventually goes blind. It's also symbolic. Sarada's trying to become the Hokage. The more she pushes herself to protect others, the more she risks losing her vision, both literally and metaphorically. She doesn't get new eyes. Sarada would be becoming Hokage and she can't see the village that she's ruling over. It's the same tragic duality that Naruto's story was always built on. A use of love as a source of power is also opening you up to pain. This also confirms that Boruto's writing is careful. It's not lazy. This update is proof that Boruto's writing isn't just winging it. It's more so some of the detractors might need to actually go back and reread Naruto. It's actually methodical in maintaining the power scale and the emotional consequences. Again, just because you didn't want to accept that Sarada was as strong as she was before she got Mangekyou does not outweigh what the story itself has presented. Again, to use the Dragon Ball example, Ikimoto borrows a lot from how Toriyama did things for Dragon Ball. We didn't see anything from Deborah that directly scales him to Cell, But we have statements. Statements matter. Fans often say Boruto broke its own rules, but when you really read the manga, especially under Kishimoto's supervision, it's more accurate to say that Boruto modernizes the rules. Ōtsutsuki level scaling doesn't erase old mechanics, it builds on them. Sarada's power being tied to Ōhirume, which is another name for the sun goddess Amaterasu, it fits the mythological theme of evolution from darkness to light and blindness to enlightenment. Even her needing a transplant for the Eternal Mangekyō Sharingan fits the mythos, an inheritance of vision in both literal and symbolic, passed on from one generation to the next. With the database entry confirming Sarada isn't a fan service prodigy, she's the real deal. She's powerful, yes, but she's also flawed and limited in the same human way that her father and the great Uchiha before her were. That's what makes her character now relatable, believable, and narratively rich. By confirming her weakness, the story reaffirms that she's not just Sasuke's daughter who got strong. She's not some random prodigy. She's a character building the tragic brilliance of the Uchiha lineage while also forging her own path. When her eyes eventually begin fading, it's not a matter of if, but when. That's when she'll stand at the crossroads of legacy and destiny. Does she take her father's eyes, or does she continue the Uchiha cycle? Or does she go blind? Or does she find a way to preserve her vision? Symbolically, that could work. Could Sumire make something for her? Potentially. Either path, it keeps the lore intact and the stakes high. So yeah, Sarada's Mangekyou Sharingan confirmation having a weakness is not a downgrade, it's a validation, and it's something that adds much needed layers to Sarada's character. I already like the character, but this adds more layers to it. It also proves that Boruto's manga has not abandoned the Naruto legacy, it's actually deepening it. The Uchiha curse of love and blindness and hate, it still lives on. And now Sarada is carrying forward in a new era where gods walk among humans. Her powers, yeah, they're Ōtsutsuki level, but her flaws, they're keeping her grounded like a human. And that's what makes her story very compelling, very human. It is Kishimoto giving us a glimpse into what he believes the human experience is, which is what every good writer does. So the next time someone says Boruto's breaking the lore, remind her, Sarada's eyes, they literally prove the opposite. Because despite all these god-tier beings and dimension-hopping aliens and cyborgs and ninjas still trying to find their place in this world, it's also a world filled with human limitations. The fragility, the sacrifice, the blindness. It's all those things that makes this world feel very real when you look at the universe that Naruto's in. And Sarada Uchiha, she might be the perfect embodiment of that balance. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and clicking here to check out more videos from Naruto Explained, or click here to check out videos from other two anime channels where I talk about non-Naruto content.